first and foremost, actually, it was my idea to go back. Um, we were just, the Blackheart release was during COVID. We didn't get to do a whole lot during that, just a couple festivals here and there. And then by the time COVID was done and like we'd all settled down into normal life stuff, that album cycle was ending. And so we had to start thinking about the next one. And one random conversation a couple years ago, like in our group text, I threw it out as like kind of like a half serious, but more like a joke. Like we could do a Phenomena too.
Steve, good to talk to you. So, hey, first things first, let's get straight into it. There's beer coming. Can we get it?
Yes. What a great way to kick it off. I think let's. I'd like to say yes, but you have to be at the party. As far as I'm aware, if you shot Joe a message, maybe he'd be kind enough to ship you some. But honestly, I think it's probably going to be gone pretty quick. So. I wouldn't say your odds are very high.
You're not gonna go straight like full Maiden with Trooper beer, bringing it onto your shows and making venues pour your beer when you're playing, that kind of stuff.
Not that particular one, but we've done it before with other Tin Bridge beers, especially if it's in the area. Like, he'll take some kegs and like get them set up, or he'll take cans or whatever. It's been done. He's been doing that a lot the past couple of years, doing beers for shows specifically or festivals and specific bands. He's been doing a lot of that, but this particular the Daywalker, not a good chance.
All right, well,
keep the demand high, supply low, demand high.
Exactly. Everybody, call in, get those beers.
Give it a shot.
Exactly. Awesome. So there's lots to talk about. Obviously, want to talk about the new album coming out, Phenomena 2, and everything, and what it all means, and all that kind of good stuff. Before we go there, love to pick your brain about, everybody's always using labels in a million ways, and people are starting to label you guys as a proggy deathcore band. It feels like, deathcore has gone through the roller coaster of first, great, big, and then 5 to 10 years ago, people started yelling like deathcore is dead, and now it's like there's this resurgence, but it has to be with a twist. It has to be symphonic deathcore. It has to be proggy deathcore. Is it just deathcore, evolving and continuing to innovate, or is there that pressure for the band as well that we need to do things slightly different?
I see the change. I see the shift and everything. I mean, you do this long enough, you're going to see how everything changes over time. It's got to be with the twists and stuff now. Need to keep up on some level, but we're very much a band. I mean, I've only been in the band 6 years, but I've been friends with these guys for much longer, and I'd probably say since the Creature days, since that first big album. So I've seen what the band's gone through and how they've changed, and honestly, I mean, you could there's differences in every album, but I mean, pick one and pick a song from any album, you're gonna be like, yep, that's Within the Ruins. So I wouldn't say there's a giant shift from album 1 to 3 to 6. I mean, it's all very much us, and I think that's actually kind of what's helped our longevity, is that we haven't tried to shift with trends too much. I mean, we keep our ear to the ground, we see what's going on, obviously, and like a lot of it's really cool, but some of it just doesn't really apply to what we do. I mean, I'm no vocal gymnast. I've got my lows, my mids, my highs, and I try some pitchy stuff here and there, and I try to do some fun with every record. I mean, because I know that's what's big right now, right? Vocal gymnastics, and like it has its place. A lot of it's cool and impressive, but that's not me either. I'm more of an old school guy, and that's kind of just where the band's mindset typically stays, is like we do what works for us, and it's maintained consistency, and it always works. So so we're aware of all the trends and how things change, and also that's great too. I mean, the genres can't stay the same for a decade and hope to be still successful. So it just doesn't. Most of them don't really apply to us, and I don't mean that in like a pretentious kind of a way. It's just we've found what works for us, and it works every time.
you are an adventurous band, but you know, going into this record, forget about the connection with the previous Phenomena album, but just, you know, when you're going into this, are there still lines in the sand? Like, are there things that some of you guys come up with that you go like, that's too crazy even for us? Like how's that?
I mean, there's always going to be those things where we do them. Like, we try some stuff in the studio and then we sit on it for a little bit, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we are kind of like you said, we're an adventurous band. Like, we all love a lot of the same stuff, but we all like different things, and we pull from everything. It could be like old school, like death metal stuff, like patterns or tones. It could be for Joe, it could be like older like thrash solo stuff, or anything pop. Like, we like pop music a lot, so there's some of the greatest songs in the world are just pop songs. I mean,
Right.
There's so much to pull from. So we do try to venture out and try new stuff all the time. And you want to do that on each record, like I said before. I mean, I always try something different. I mean, do what always works, but you always want to push yourself. I know Joe does that every time he's writing. I do that when I'm writing lyrics or doing stuff in the studio, and I mean, it's like a controlled chaos kind of. I like to think of it as like, it's all like, there's a lot going on, and there are lines in the sand. Especially if you've been listening to the band for a long time, you hear stuff that you're familiar with, but you're listening for the little stuff. And I think that's what's really fun for us, is we just pepper in things all over the place and see who picks up on what, and try not to give things away, and just see who can who picks up on it. And we just see, just for fun. I mean, the songs would be fine if we didn't put the little things, but it's the little things that make them really interesting. Like I said, fans of the band that have been listening for a while, they know, I think at this point, they know to listen for stuff like that. So I like thinking of it as like a controlled chaos. There's a lot going on, but it's within the Ruins bubble, within the within.
Well, I mean, it's obviously those Easter eggs are here on this album, maybe even heavier than before, because this is now meant to be the sequel to the previous Phenomena album. You said it earlier, people that are only newer to your band, you've been around for about 6 years in this band, so that album predates you. When the band started having a conversation like, hey, we want to revisit that world, if you will, what's that like for you? Because I can imagine that for the guys that were there already, it can be scary to go into the past, and nostalgia is a big thing in metal, but it's also like old stuff is revered, so don't touch it, kind of thing. But for you coming into it after that album came out, that must have been a bit of a weird mind situation for you as well, to go like, we're going back to something that this band has done before I was part of it. I know that you were close to the band already, but was that must have been a very different approach than writing any other album with the band?
Very much. This is that's the loaded question right there. First and foremost, actually, it was my idea to go back. We were just, the Blackheart release was during COVID. We didn't get to do a whole lot during that. Just a couple festivals here and there. And then by the time COVID was done and like we'd all settled down into normal life stuff, that album cycle was ending, and so we had to start thinking about the next one. And one random conversation a couple years ago, like in our group text, I threw it out as like kind of like a half serious but more like a joke, like we could do a Phenomena too, and it kind of got dismissed. And I was like, whatever, we're just kind of joking around in there. But then the more Joe was writing, he was sending stuff over in Dropbox, and some of it was just reminding me of the first Phenomena, and I threw out the idea again, and I was like, we could do a Phenomena too. And more we thought about it, we were like, okay, well, by the time we're done with this and could get it out, it would be 10 years since the first one, and we never got to do a 10-year anniversary for Elite. We were looking into it, but we never landed on anything. Same thing for Invade, and we're like, this could be perfect. This could be 10 years and a sequel. The stars would just align for this. And it didn't take too long before the guys were convinced. They were like, "That's actually a really cool idea." So yeah, let's go back and do it. So it was a little daunting because I know how loved that album is, the first one.
Right.
But I loved it a lot when it came out at the time, and I've always been into comics and those movies and heroes and villains and stuff. And I always thought that album was cool when it came out, and then when I joined the band, like Phenomena 2 was never a thought when I first joined the band, but I was like, man, it fits really well that I happen to like that same stuff, and I'm in the band that did it now, and it just now it's a thing, and so it's a little scary because I know what I'm up against, but I also was very willing to take on the task to do it because it's super interesting to me. So I had a ton of fun writing this record. It was a lot of fun. But also my head is not where I was when I wrote Blackheart. I was in a really bad spot. I had just a lot going on at that time. That's why that record is darker and pissed off and really sad. Which was something new for the band. So I was happy to bring that to the table, but we were all kind of in weird places at that time. We were all kind of angry about stuff. That was just my personal stuff I put out on the table, and it worked, but I'm not in that headspace right now. I'm in a much better place right now. And I didn't want to do a Blackheart 2 and just call it something else and fake that, because Blackheart was a lot. That took a lot out of me to write and to be that vulnerable and just say all that stuff. But I didn't want to do that again. And again, I wanted it to be sincere. And so that's why I think the gears started turning about where I was going to go on the next record. And then the timing just worked out great to do a Phenomena too. So, and here we are. I'm stoked on it.
Now, based on everything that you just say, and kind of, stay using terminology of the comic book superhero world, is Blackheart and whatever came between Phenomena 1 and 2, for the time being, retconned a bit? When you guys are going to go on the road, are we going to see predominantly now Phenomena 1 and 2 sets?
We might focus a little extra on Phenomena stuff. We just announced last week some headlining dates. Me and our bass player live in Texas. We live in San Antonio, but the band is based out of Massachusetts. So we're kind of split down the middle, 2 and 2. And so we've kind of developed a home base out here. So you're going to see us do more stuff like in this region, and then up there, that's where we're going to do a lot of stuff. We're tiptoeing back towards doing bigger tours and stuff. It's just everyone's got life things going on right now. But for those headlining dates that we are going to do, we're going to focus a little more on Phenomena stuff, and we do tend to focus on some more stuff that has me in it, and not just play the same old stuff that the guys have been playing for years. It's a lot of it's still, there's plenty of songs that I've never gotten to do live, but I wouldn't say that we're retconning anything. We generally try to pick at least 1 or 2 from each album, depending on how long our set's going to be. So we do focus on newer stuff, but you gotta play the hits. Everyone wants to hear the same jams, and that's fine. That's that's what everybody's got to do. But I think at least for a little bit though, we are going to lean into Phenomena and Phenomena 2 a little bit more, just because we're in that era right now. And it's like you said earlier, it's not even in just metal, but I think we're just in that nostalgia era in everything, music, movies, all of it, TV, 100%. Everything.
I mean, okay, so, now that we're saying that with the popularity of everything, geek culture for the last few years.
Whatever, yeah.
So when is the comic book coming?
Oh, man. I'm not a very good artist in that sense. Well, it's funny, though, actually, our bass player, Paolo, I think it's his cousin that does really cool, sketches and art and stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but...
I mean, for people watching this interview that aren't as close with the band, maybe we should clarify that both Phenomena 1 and Phenomena 2 are heavily influenced and inspired by a ton of different comic books out there, specifically the superhero world. Yeah.
Yeah, and I tried to choose, I guess, to lean into that question a little more. I obviously didn't want to choose the same ones that Tim did before.
Right.
I will say he got a nice pick because the band hadn't done it before, so he could do whatever he wanted. So when I was like double checking. I mean, I went through the lyrics a ton, and I just double checked everything, and I was like, no, because if I do this, it's too close to this, maybe, and I wasn't going to do the same characters again. So I chose different ones, but I tried to. Because like I said, I'm pretty into it. I'm not like the most diehard in the entire world. Like I know everything about every character and every storyline. You know, I know a fair amount, but enough to do the album and be able to speak to it. Because I do like it, but I'm not like the fucking almighty comic guy. But I knew enough to do the album, so I leaned into characters I knew would be coming down the pipeline in certain movies and stories. And at least one of them I was actually guessing, but it was because of if you follow YouTube channels, Instagram pages that talk about rumors and announcements and stuff, and one of them I actually had guessed because of a movie that was coming out, and I wrote the song anyway. It was going to be a cool song, but I'd say it was an educated guess, not just random, but it was an educated guess of like, I think this character's coming, and then maybe a month or so later they announced that character's happening, and I was like, there you go, super cool. So it was tying into your previous question from before, like it's intimidating because you are going to have people that are like the super big mega nerds, just in general, or from the first one, from the first album, they're going to want to talk about it some, so I have to be able to speak to it and give my reasonings for why I chose that, X, Y, or Z, whatever.
Exactly.
So intimidating, but again, fun. And I don't know, man. I'll say it again. I had a really good time writing this record. It was a lot of fun.
Now, this album also, like, it sounds like it was a lot of fun. It's fun. I had a chance to listen to the full album. There's a lot of fun, like unexpected, like, curveballs in there, if you will. Some new sounds. We don't get Ataxia 6, which makes me feel like, is this album, should we look at it as both like the end and the start of an era for the band? Because it is a bit of a break from previous stuff.
Yeah, kind of. Kind of. Again, it's going to bum me out a little bit personally that we didn't get to do as much for Blackheart, but I mean, it was a pandemic. What are you supposed to do? It was just that the timing was what it was, but I was glad to put that record out. But now doing this one is when we're going to be able to get back to work a little bit more. So in a sense, it's sort of a new chapter. A new chapter. Yeah, I'd say so. But I hesitate to say that it's like too much. Like there's this big like A and B, and it's like, I mean, it all still blends together. Like I said, we're not going to just completely dismiss other albums or anything like that. But there's a lot of comments already. I see them because I run our social media pages, so I see almost everything. There's a lot of people, no Ataxia 6 and blah blah blah, and like okay, but like we could slap the Ataxia name onto whatever instrumental, and then like you'd be like, yeah, that's it. And like, it's arbitrary. It's arbitrary, but we were like this. But that was Joe's idea, but I supported it. I was like, that's a cool time to do. Let's do Enigma too. Everyone loved Enigma. Let's keep in line with what we're doing. Let's lean into that more and do Enigma 2. And like Ataxia had its time, and I mean, not to say you wouldn't get another one down the road, but again, it's like you could just slap the Ataxia title onto whatever instrumental. Sure. But the people that are getting like extra upset about it, I'm like, guys, it's gonna be okay.
The passion that the fans show for these kinds of things.
Oh, it's great though.
Exactly. Yeah. It's similar to the passion of comic book fans that will be the first to yell.
They'll point out,
but are the best, fans at heart as well. And all these people. Sure. We can start with some cool shows. I think in October you've got a couple of Texas shows, and in that area. So that's when the fans can really discover the new material and how it blends with everything else. And we'll keep our eyes open for more stuff to be announced for later this year and obviously in the coming year. But in the meantime, everybody, go get to the listening party in a few days from now. Get those beers. They will be collector's items.
Beers. I got to get some myself.
You have to add them to.
I have to get. If I don't get at least one pack of them, maybe he said there's 104 packs is what he says. So
they're gonna fly off the shelf very quickly.
Sounds like a big number, but it's not, man. Those are gonna go.
Exactly. So don't miss out on that, everybody. And if you can't be there, check out the new album coming out, and then keep your eyes open for all these tour announcements on all the social channels. Steve, thank you so much for just having a chat with me about superheroes, inspiration, and new albums coming out. Thank you so much. Absolutely. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you on the road soon.
Thank you, bud. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.